Peace plan with it, and the African leaders who are there today and going to Moscow tomorrow, of course, have got a peace plan. These African leaders are not particularly representative of the 55 members of the African Union.
Why not?
And they have taken the Russian view of the war. They accept President Putin's narrative on what this war is all about. So it's good for Ukraine that these people have gone to Kiev.
These people.
At first, it gives Zelensky a chance to show his side of the picture and see if he can shift their perceptions a little bit.
Not representative.
When they go tomorrow to see President Putin in Moscow, of course they'll be talking about this peace plan they've got, but really the agenda they will have is to try to persuade President Putin not to duck out of the grain deal, the really important grain deal, which helps get grain onto the world markets. Last year, it was almost a catastrophe in terms of world food prices and food insecurity. And
why was that?
Worse this year.
Why was that? Why?
The grain deal, which is at present hanging by a thread,
and who's threatening it?
Renewed.
Who's threatening it?
Although there's not much in this in terms of concessions from Ukraine or the West in continuing the grain deal.
Stop. The grain deal, you're being secured by Russia, who's taking the grain out of Ukraine and helping feed it to these Russian... Now, who's sabotaging that? Who's launching drone attacks on those Russian ships who aren't even participating in the war, but helping get grain to the poorest nations in Africa? Who's sabotaging it? Who's stealing it? Who's stealing the fertilizer? Which Russia gave to these countries for free? Who stole the fertilizer and sent it up to Europe? Disgusting, man.
I think President Putin may well continue the grain deal because he's playing a bigger game with African politics and politicians.
This guy. Disgusting.
The Russians are heavily involved in the civil war in Libya. They're heavily involved in the civil war in Sudan. They have been very heavily involved in diamond-rich Central African Republic.
Oh, how dare they? How dare they? Like, well, you mean that they've been helping secure these governments while the West has been trying to overthrow these governments. They've been securing the natural resources of Central Africa while the government tries to steal, while Western governments try to steal the natural resources of Africa. It's like listening to this guy makes me cringe because it's like you have to be an idiot to listen to what he says and take it seriously.
Already about 1,500 Wagner fighters in the Central African Republic, as well as in Mali and in Libya and in Sudan. But 1,500 fighters there have been there for quite some time. And the Central African...
And they've been stopping Western infiltrators from trying to overthrow the legitimately elected African governments in there. That's what's going on.
Republic are offering the Russians a military base there for between 5,000 and 10,000 troops. So President Putin is playing a very big game in Africa, trying to bring Africa on board, not just for resources and military cooperation and trade, but also to get their backing for his version of what the war is all about.
Politics,
he sees the war as part of a shift in global politics, and he wants Africa on board. We'll see how successful he is doing that at the United Nations General Assembly, I would imagine, in September when the big meeting, the big international meeting takes place, and we'll just see how much backing the Russians still have in other parts of the world. It's been quite high so far.
That's right.
Meanwhile, in the rest of the world...
you know that. Yeah, you know that. The rest of the world... Listen to this little imperialist mouthpiece right here, right? How dare the Africans? Deal with Russia? How dare Russia have such influence in Africa? And they're really worried about the Chinese. Oh, so many Chinese in Africa. Oh, and they're helping them build roads and hospitals, and they're only doing it for the raw resources, Yeah, that's right. That's called a deal. Yeah, that's called a deal, where you don't go in there and bop people over the head and just steal their shit. This is what you're hearing. You're hearing the complaints of an imperialist nation whining that they can't just put their filthy hands in and grab and take everything. No, the Russians, they're going in there and they're doing things honestly. Can you think about it? Could you think about it? And they're building roads and hospitals, and they only want the raw resources. They're only doing it for the raw resources. And I think these Africans are being exploited for their raw resources with these roads and these hospitals and these schools. Because we leave them with absolutely nothing. I don't know what the problem is.
War, it goes on. This is the 478th day of the offensive, of the war itself, the Russian offensive, and the 12th day of the Ukrainian offensive. And it's going on in 3 areas, in Backfoot, in Velika Novosilka, and at Orikhiv towards Tokmak. Not very much has happened in those areas so far over the last couple of days because neither side has yet committed their main forces.
This is the same man that a few days ago was telling you stunning counter-offensive by the Ukrainians, and the Russians are poorly armed and poorly educated, and they're prisoners, and they've only got shovels. They share rifles. And and they're poorly paid, and they have to plough fields before they come to fight. So they're very exhausted by the time they come to fight after ploughing fields, because Russians, they drink vodka and they're drunk. And still managed to hold this front line. Well, how shit must the Ukrainians be? This is how bad the Russians are, but they still managed to hold this front line, fighting with shovels. Wow, I mean, isn't this NATO-backed counter-offensive by the Ukrainians one of the most internationally supported military efforts that we've ever seen against Russia? Isn't it? Hey, we want your F-16s. We will win if we have your X-16s. We will win if we have your Leopard tanks, your artillery. We like your artillery and the money. You need the money. You need the money. Fuck out of here, getting slapped. While getting slapped. Listen to this man complain. And look at these lines. So look, before these lines were going to the coast. Oh, and they're on their way to the Azov. They're making their way to. They haven't even got to the first line of defense. For your information, go on the internet now, and there will still be those YouTube videos. The Ukrainian offensive is going well. The Russians are running. Never before. I'm going to post this onto YouTube right now. Top tail it, nothing. Throw this up. You can go do a little bit of research and see how the media is lying to you. There's not been one breakthrough on this whole front line. Bullshit. Not one breakthrough. Put your big boy pants on. Have a look. This large water body here underneath Zaporizhzhia that was feeding the Zaporizhzhia power plant, that's now no longer there. It's been drained away because of the bombing of the Kakhovka Dam further south, right? Who blew up the Kakhovka Dam? Well, I don't know. It was built by the Soviet Union. It was a Soviet Union effort. Why would the Soviet Union destroy hard infrastructure that serves the entire region? It doesn't make any sense, and it's gone and flooded all of their southern defensive positions they spent the last 6 months digging in. Put your big boy pants on, right? All the hard defensive lines to the east of Tokmak could be circumvented because this water body here is now drained and tanks potentially can come this way. And if they do, I don't want to hear anything about, oh, we're going to take advantage of the fact that, nah, shut up. If they come this way and circumvent the hard defenses, you should know 100% if all of those tanks that they're going to tell you at the end are still spare. If they got those, well, they're all going to come rushing through this way. And if they do, yeah, the Ukrainians blew up the Kakhovka Dam and it's strategically flooded out the Russians and gave them an opportunity to circumvent the hard defenses established over many months by the Russians. Boom. Okay. Right now, let's let this not be another thing that ends up happening where you got your finger up your nose going, oh yeah, and then the dam happened and they took the opportunity to. Morons. Right, Russians just running around destroying everything, aren't they? They're destroying their own pipelines. Yeah, they're destroying their own bridges. Yeah, Crimea. Yeah, they're destroying their own. You have to look around and how stupid people are who believe shit. We're a very unique time in the world. Look around at all the idiots who believe in. If you got yours, the people are dropping dead around you. Did you get yours? You better not. If you listen to me, you better not have got that poison in you. You better not have. Because otherwise there was no point to listen to me at any point. But did you get yours? You seen all the blood clot. Well, I'm not telling people there. Blood clot. People putting things out of the veins and that. Well, that's the same people that are feeding you this. That is shit. The stunning military breakthrough by the Ukrainians. The Russians are running in retreat. Wonderful time.
They're both probing, both feeling each other out. The Russians have not done it all badly. They've been very competent so far, but the Ukrainians haven't yet committed most of their big forces.
Oh, yeah.
That's something we will see in the next week or two, I would imagine.
Nice one, yeah. Just tell us. Yeah. Just tell. Oh no, they haven't shown us everything. The counter-offensive is on. It's not going that well. See, they haven't shown us everything. There's more to come. Really? He's got a pretty sure Russians got a satellite over that whole region now. I am the eye in the sky.
I am the king and will not be. I am the king and will not.